Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 134 of the Nigerian Football Weekly Podcast. Me, your host, Olu Oke. And today I've got here another bumper episode for your listening pleasure as we edge towards the end of the season in football in general. I'll be touching on the usual suspects, standout performances, Idaye's comments on the state of Nigerian football, the Under-20 AFCON update that I promised you from last week's episode, also Starboy of the Week and the ones to watch. However, before we get into it, I want to start today's podcast with the update on Taiwo Awoniyi. So over the past week, we got to learn about the severity of Taiwo Awoniyi's injury, which happened last week when Nottingham Forest drew 2-2 against Leicester. Annoyingly, this act happened while Nottingham Forest were offside. So in an ideal world, there's even been a debate about tweaking the offside rules, with them keeping, with linos keeping their flags down for quite a while to let the play generate, especially when it's a clear offside, which it was in this case. But anyway, we heard he suffered an abdominal injury on that Sunday when he collided with the post. He had to have an emergency operation on Monday evening. Reports say that in some cases this injury could have been fatal, but we thank God for Awoniyi's life. Nottingham Forest also issued a statement explaining the whole situation and said he was recovering well. On Tuesday evening, however, we're told that he was placed in a medically induced coma to help with his recovery before the second procedure. Sounds so serious. The second procedure was successfully done on Wednesday, thankfully, and he regained consciousness on Wednesday evening. Yesterday, on Sunday, he then put out the following statement talking about the season has been one of the most difficult of my career, but through it all, I have felt the love. With the grace of God, I'm grateful to still be here and still be fighting, to still be smiling and to be in good spirits. To my teammates, coaches, staff, and the entire Forest family, thank you for your well wishes. Seeing you all on your visit to the hospital lifted my spirits more than words can say. Wishing the boys the very best in these last two games. Keep believing and keep pushing, and we do all the way, and I can't wait to be back out there with the boys doing what I love. To my family and friends and football fans, thank you for the support, and to everyone back home in Nigeria who has checked in on me, prayed for me, and left kind words. Thank you. I see them, I feel them, and I carry them with me every day as I recover. Come on, you Reds. So that was really lovely touch from Taiwo Awoniyi. He's said to be recovering well, and that's the most important thing, as health comes before everything else, especially something like football, which in my opinion is the most important, non-important thing in the world, as I like to say. We continue to send our thoughts to Taiwo Awoniyi and his family and wish him a speedy and full recovery, and we can't wait to see Taiwo back to doing what he loves. Moving on to the standout performances for the week, and I want to start with Victor Osimhen, of course. Victor James Osimhen did it yet again. You know, this time last week he had not won 2 titles. Now he has 2 titles, the Turkish League title as well as the Turkish Cup. He scored 3 goals and won 2 trophies over the past week. On Wednesday, he scored a brace in a 3-0 win over Trabzonspor to win the Turkish Cup. He also broke the record for the most goals scored by a foreign player for Galatasaray with 35 at that point. He then scored the opening goal for them on Sunday yesterday as they clinched the title in a 3-0 win over Kayserispor with the brilliant header from a corner kick, just typical Osimhen style. What I even loved as well is there was a lovely touch of his daughter being the one to announce his goal being scored, so you could hear her voice in there, which was a lovely touch. He's now scored 41 goals this season for club and country. He's the top goal scorer in the league with 25 goals. He even gave the pen to Fernando Muslera to score the 3rd goal in the game, because Muslera has been Galatasaray's goalkeeper for 14 years and has won 19 trophies. I think he may be the most successful player in their history, but please don't quote me on that one. Remember, he did not even start the season with Galatasaray. He did not play a single game until after the first international break in September, and yet look at how many goals he scored. Galatasaray are doing all they can to convince him to stay. We even saw a tifo beckoning him to stay and mascots writing him letters to stay. We know he absolutely loves the fans, and this is a special footballer because he was absolutely adored by the Napoli fans as well. But honestly, I think for his career purpose, he needs to just he needs to do what he needs to do and just make a move, to the big leagues. Also, Bruno Onyemaechi also won his 2nd trophy of the season. The man's story has seriously changed over the 5 months, and honestly, I love to see it because I was one of the people that wanted him to leave Boavista. Now, Olympiacos beat OFC Crete 2-0 on Saturday in the Greek Cup final. It's their 2nd trophy this season after winning the league a couple of weeks ago. He left Boavista, as you know, and Boavista actually finished bottom of the Portuguese league and got relegated over the weekend. So congratulations to Bruno, and we're wishing him even more success to come next season. Cyriel Dessers also has to be called out. He scored 3 goals over the week, 2 against Dundee on Wednesday and 1 against Hibernian on Saturday. He finished the season as the top scorer in the Scottish Premiership, which is amazing, and also scored 6 goals in his final 5 games of the season. He has now scored 51 goals for Rangers in his 2 seasons there. Also, I wanted to shout out with Ndidi, who got an assist for Leicester City in their 2-0 win over Ipswich Town over the weekend. It could potentially be his last game at the King Power Stadium, and obviously we have to shout out Jamie Vardy, who scored his 200th goal for Leicester City in his 500th appearance, which was just fantastic to see. Also, Christantus Uche scored in his second game back after a 3-game ban. It was Getafe's second goal of the game to put them 2-0 up against Real Mallorca, and they won the game 2-1. The goal was also so fantastic because I'll just say it was almost like Declan Rice's goal yesterday for Arsenal. You know, the ball just came to him and just whipped it into the top corner. So even higher trajectory than Declan Rice's goal, but honestly, I encourage you to go and watch the goal. I'm really good to see Christantus Uche back playing games for Getafe, and we should hopefully see him in the squad for the Unity Cup, which will take place in just over a week. Also, Moses Simon scored a goal and got an assist for Nantes over the weekend in what could also be his final game for Nantes. It was his 200th Ligue 1 appearance for the team, and it meant that he ended the season with 8 goals and 10 assists, which is no mean feat when you consider the level of team Nantes are. The goal he scored was a penalty, but the assist was also incredible. Dribbled like 3-man and just squared it for the striker to put the ball into the net. So he's also the first Nigerian to get 10 assists in the league season in the top 5 leagues in Europe. So fantastic achievement, and he ended the season just 1 assist below Ryan Cherky and Gaetan Perrin. So honestly, he's trying for Nantes, man. The 200 appearances in the league. I'd love to see what happens to him in the summer. Also, I want to shout out Chuba Akpom, who scored the winning goal for Lille in their 2-1 win over Reims. It was an 86-minute penalty after he came on to replace Jonathan David, who was leaving Lille in the summer. And it was nice to see him keep his cool and win the 3 points for Lille. He's also one to watch in the summer because he's currently on loan from Ajax. So let's see what happens for him. Also, in really good news, I wanted to shout out Terem Moffi. Terem Moffi scored for the first time since getting injured at the end of last season. You remember he did his ACL, and it was his first goal in 389 days for Nice. Also, his goal in their 6-0 win over Brest meant that Nice have now qualified for the Champions League qualifiers by virtue of finishing 4th in League 1. It was really lovely to see the way his teammates mobbed him as well, and you could just see that he's a player who's really loved by his teammates, and hopefully his injury issues will be the end of his injury issues, and he can put them behind him and move forward next season, because we know that there's a quality striker in there. Also, I want to shout out Tolu Arokodare, who scored his 21st league goal of the season in a 4-1 win over Ghent. He's now back on the top goal scoring charts in Belgium, although he's joined top with Adriano Bertaccini. One more game to go for him to seal the award after winning the Ebony Shoe Award last week, as we mentioned. A good season overall for him, considering he also made the Super Eagles debut this season. He's still 24, so let's see what happens over the summer window, and there's a lot more to come from him. Also, his teammate Yirasor scored the second goal of the game. That 4-1 win for Genk. He had not scored since September, when he got a goal and 2 assists against Cercle Bruges. He'd been injured from December to March as well. So just great to see him back on the score sheets and actually starting this game. Another key thing to mention that happened over the past week is obviously the Under-20 AFCON updates. The Flying Eagles of Nigeria ended the tournament in 3rd place. Remember, as I last week, we qualified for the semi-finals, but we didn't know who our opponents would be when I recorded on Monday. We ended up playing South Africa, and honestly, we were really shocking. We lost to South Africa 1-0 on Thursday. We dominated the whole match, but like you notice with the pattern of these Flying Eagles, they're not the most prolific at all. You know, even our quarterfinal game, we won on penalties after a 0-0 draw against Senegal. Then semi-final, we lost 1-0 because they're just not prolific. They can't put the ball in the net. To make matters worse, we saw South Africa end up winning the tournament after beating Morocco yesterday. So congratulations to South Africa. The good news is we clearly have really good shot stoppers from the penalty spot, because this game ended 1-1 after 90 minutes. Egypt actually hit the post 3 times in the 90th minute, so we're really lucky and rode our luck, but it went straight to penalties. And we saw, first of all, Bidemi Olaleke Amole scored for us in the 47th minute. We won the penalty shootout 4-1. Fantastic performance by Rufai Abubakar. He made 2 saves and was really incredible. Ajia Suliu Yakub started the game in goal, but he was taken off in the 94th minute ahead of the penalty shootout, and thankfully the coach's decision was vindicated. Let's see how the team do in the Under-20 World Cup, because coming third is still pretty respectable, and hopefully they could tweak certain things to put themselves in better stead for this tournament that is happening from the 27th of September to the 19th of October. I also saw something interesting I wanted to call out over the weekend because on Saturday, former Super Eagles striker Ideye, who won the 2023 AFCON with 2013 African Cup of Nations with Nigeria, made a tweet about a particular young player whose father had sold land to pay someone who claimed to be a FIFA licensed agent to get into a club in Europe back in 2020. Apparently, this player is still in Nigeria 5 years later. And, Ideye was just lamenting about what he should tell this player. He then followed up the tweet with another one calling out the state of how football in Nigeria is and the fact that players in Nigeria feel the need to travel out of the country to be seen. He literally quoted, "So sad, they see the desperation on you and took advantage of it. Tell me if our home league was good, why young talented players will feel they have to travel out to be seen. We only have one good standard stadium that you can enjoy football in this country. So they will never think they have a future by starting from home." Very, very profound words. And this is someone who currently even plays in the MPFL for Enyimba, mind you, and has been decorated and earned enough money in Europe to have the credentials to make such a statement without being abused. When people like me say, they say, "Oh, we don't respect MPFL, I mean." But look at something that a current player in the league is saying. He says if the league was good, so all of you that always shout that there's MPFL players in the Super Eagles, can you please just take a moment to just think, and I'm begging you, really look inwards around how these things go, because it's not good, man. It's not good. It's really, really sad, man. Even the Uyo one is not even that good. The Okene one is okay, but it's not even natural grass, So he made a tweet that we need to invest more in our sports facilities, and this is not the first time I've mentioned this thing about facilities. It's always going to be a drawback, which is why there's so much pressure on these under 20 and under 17 tournaments, because the players know that that's the only way that they could get seen. But best believe Nigeria has a bigger pool of talent than 23 players at age groups. So what is the solution? It's just not good enough. Anyway, in more positive news, I wanted to call out the fact that Nike have released the official home and away jerseys for the Nigeria Super Falcons ahead of the Women's African Cup of Nations will be taking place this summer. Of course, it's a very, very fantastic, beautiful jersey, as you can see. The home one is almost dark green, and the other one is white with almost like some kind of Ashoke stripes. But just go check it out. Really, really beautiful. One thing to note is the Unity Cup is less than 10 days away. Who would you like to see make an appearance in the tournament at the end of this month? I think we're quite excited about this one, and it's always a fun occasion playing Ghana, so look out for that game. Also, I just want to thank everybody who's reached this point in this program. We're now 1,850 subscribers. We need 150 more subscribers to reach 2,000, and we have an end of year goal to reach 5K subscribers, which hopefully we'll be able to achieve with your pleasure. So please continue to help us out, and I want to thank you for all the support so far. Moving on quickly to player reviews, and starting with Nottingham Forest. I know played 90 minutes. Nottingham Forest beat West Ham 2-1 yesterday. Really, really good performance from them. We saw the players wear warm-up shirts to show their support for Taiwo Awoniyi, and Morgan Gibbs-White also dedicated his goal to Taiwo Awoniyi, which was a really lovely touch. Forest are currently 7th in the league with 65 points, but they're only 1 point behind Newcastle in 3rd. However, City could move up to 3rd with the win against Bournemouth tomorrow night, which will take them 68 points. The good news is it's do or die for Nottingham Forest and Chelsea. They play each other in the final game of the season at the City Ground on Sunday, and winner takes all kind of vibes will most likely end up in the Champions League. So watch this space. Alex Iwobi and Bassey both started for Fulham in their 3-2 win over Brentford on Sunday. Fulham now have 54 points, which is their greatest ever points tally in the Premier League. So that's no mean feat, a really, really fantastic achievement. Their final game of the season will be against Manchester City at home. So watch this space. They might just be one of the teams that could put a spanner in the works for Pep and Man City making the Champions League. Also, I already spoke about Wilfred Ndidi's exploits, and maybe he might be playing his last game for Leicester City when they play Bournemouth away on Sunday. And finally, Aribo played 60 minutes while Onuachu was not in the squad for Southampton as they lost 2-0 to Everton on Sunday in Everton's final game at Goodison Park. This may or may not be Aribo and Co.'s last game in the Premier League. You never know. Their last game is against Arsenal at home on Sunday, and I expect my boys to thrash them like 5-0, to be honest. It's been a Hall of Shame performance from Southampton this season. Other results to be aware about: on Friday night, Aston Villa beat Tottenham 1-0. Chelsea beat Man United 1-0 as well. And then yesterday on Sunday, a lot of games were played because on Saturday was the FA Cup final, which Crystal Palace won 1-0 thanks to Eberechi's Eze's fantastic goal. And what a performance from Crystal Palace. And if you can see, I live in South London, if you see the scenes and the joy all around me, it's just been beautiful to see, for Crystal Palace to get that one back in their trophy. It's the first trophy they've ever won in their history. So just a brilliant, brilliant achievement. Other games to be aware about that we've not touched on. Arsenal beat Newcastle 1-0. Shout out to Declan Rice for a wonderful strike. And And then later today, we will see Brighton play Liverpool, and then we will see Crystal Palace play Wolverhampton tomorrow, as well as Manchester City host Bournemouth. Final games of the season, which will be this Sunday that's coming. We'll see Bournemouth host Leicester City, Fulham host City, Man City, Wolverhampton host Brentford, Nottingham Forest host Chelsea, Man United host Aston Villa, Southampton host Arsenal, Newcastle host Everton, Liverpool hosting Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town hosting West Ham, and Tottenham hosting Brighton. Also, I need to mention that on Wednesday we will have the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham, with the winner of that game going straight into the Champions League. So literally the battle of 16th versus 17th, but one team will end the season very, very happy. No need to touch on the table. Liverpool are confirmed first, Arsenal confirmed second. As I said, we've got 5 teams all separated by 1 point at the moment. Newcastle, Chelsea and Villa all have 66 points, and Man City and Forest have 65 points. 2 of those teams are going to be really, really upset, which is, sad. And then there's still the potential that the team that finishes 8th will make it into the Conference League. But Chelsea will need to finish out of the Champions League places for that to happen. Moving on to Serie A, Lookman was on the bench yesterday in Atalanta's 3-2 win over Genoa on Saturday. He will potentially be playing his last game for Atalanta in their game against Parma at home on Sunday. Dele-Bashiru was also on the bench for Lazio in their dramatic 2-2 draw against Inter yesterday. Honestly, that game was absolute cinema. Inter, it was 1-0 to Inter. Then Pedro comes on, scores the equalizer in 79th minute. Next thing you know, Inter are now second at the table because Napoli are drawing 0-0 against Parma. 82nd minute, Denzel Dumfries scores a header from a corner to make it 2-1 to Inter, and now they're cruising to the title. But guess what? In the last minute, the ref gives a penalty because of a handball by Bissek, the centre-back, and Pedro stepped up to make it 2-2. So now, even though Napoli did not win their game and thought that they were out of the title race, now the title is in Napoli's hands as they go to play their last game of the week this weekend. I think it's against Cagliari. So really, really interesting cinema happening in Serie A, man. And of course, we know Inter are going to play the Champions League final the week after. Also, Samuel Chukwueze's Milan, he came on the 88th minute for AC Milan's 1-0 loss against Bologna in the Coppa Italia final on Wednesday. And then he was not even in the squad over the weekend as AC Milan lost 3-1 to Roma on Sunday. But this was due to a groin injury which will keep him out till June. Milan will not play in Europe next season, which is an absolute shame. And they'll end their season against Monza at home on Sunday. Maduka Okoye, on the other hand, played 90 minutes for Udinese and made 5 saves, but unfortunately they lost 2-0 to Juventus. This meant the Juventus have now clinched a place in the Champions League for next season. Next up for them, they end the season against Fiorentina at home on Sunday. And then finally, Aribo, he's played 7 minutes in Empoli's 3-1 win over Monza on Sunday. Lecce also won against Torino, so Empoli remain in the drop zone on goal difference. All to play for in the final game of the season on Sunday, with Lecce also playing against Lazio. So let's see how Empoli do against Verona and if they're able to preserve their status in Serie A. Moving on to the Bundesliga, we saw Nathan Tella play 45 minutes as Leverkusen drew 2-2 against Mainz on Saturday to end their Bundesliga season. Boniface was not even in the squad for this game, so clearly something has happened between him and Alonso, but hopefully he'll get a fresh start in the summer with Alonso moving to Real Madrid. Frank Onyeka also played 80 minutes as Orban lost 2-1 to Union Berlin. Onyeka is one to watch in the summer as he's going to return to Brentford after having a pretty good season for Orban. Kevin Akpoguma, on the other hand, played 90 minutes for Hoffenheim as they lost 4-0 to Bayern Munich. Heidenheim lost to Werder Bremen, so there was no drama for Hoffenheim, and they will play in the Bundesliga next season. In La Liga, I already spoke about the exploits of my boy Christantus Uche over the weekend. It was his 5th La Liga goal of the season, but he also played 85 minutes on Thursday as Getafe lost 2-0 to Athletic Bilbao, which is no shame really. They'll be ending their season this Sunday against Celta Vigo at home on Saturday. And then also Marcelic played 25 minutes for Valencia and their 1-0 loss to Deportivo Alaves on Wednesday. He then started the game on Sunday as they lost 1-0 to Athletic Bilbao. So they're not going to make Europe, but considering where they started their season, it's nice that they're going to end the season in 12th. They will end their season on Friday away to Real Betis. Chidera Ajuke, on the other hand, was on the bench for Sevilla and their 1-0 win over Las Palmas on Wednesday, and also in their 2-0 loss to Real Madrid on Sunday. So one to watch there. He'll be ending the season away against Villarreal on Sunday. In League 1, I already spoke about Moses Simon's exploits. Fantastic achievement for him. And let's see what happens in the summer with him. Hafiz Ibrahim, on the other hand, for Reims, played 20 minutes as they lost 2-1 to Lille on Saturday. In that same game, which Chuba Akpom scored the winning goal for Lille. Next up for them, though, they have a Coupe de France final to play on Wednesday against PSG. No, that's on Saturday, actually. They've actually got a League One qualification first leg game. So basically, because they finished 16th, they're playing the third best team from League 2 in a playoff to see who ends up staying in League 1. And then they've got the unenviable task of having to then play PSG in the Coupe de France final on Saturday, which they will likely lose. George Kenna, on the other hand, played for 74 minutes for Monaco. They lost 4-0 to Lens. They've already qualified for the Champions League, so they're probably on the beach. Gabriel Osho played 90 minutes for Auxerre. They lost 3-1 to PSG on Saturday, while Hamza Ojediran was not in the squad for Lens in their 4-0 win over Monaco on Saturday. Although we know that we'll still be leaving Lens. So I have some insider information that makes me believe that it's probably a good thing for Hamza Ojediran, and hopefully he could find better favor with the new manager. I've also spoken about Terry Murphy's exploits, which made us very, very happy, of course. Going on to Turkey, one thing to mention is the Turkish league ends on the 1st of June with all the teams playing on that day. So if clubs don't let their players go after this weekend, they will not play in the Unity Cup. So it's very unlikely we'll see Osimhen in England, which is a pretty shameful thing to think about, and Osayi-Samuel as well. Anyway, we spoke about Osimhen's exploits, and his next game will be Göztepe away on Sunday. Osayi-Samuel, on the other hand, played 20 minutes for Fenerbahce in the 2-1 win over Eyüpspor on Sunday, and they will be playing against Hatayspor away on Sunday at 6 p.m. As for Anthony Dennis, he played 74 minutes as Göztepe lost 3-2 to Rizespor on Sunday. Ibrahim Olawoyin scored a goal and got an assist for Rizespor in this game, and Babajide David also scored a goal for Rizespor. Next up for Göztepe, they play Osimhen's Galatasaray. Moving on to Belgium, and we already spoke about Tolu Arokodare and Yerasoro's exploits. Genk can no longer win the league, of course, but they will end their season playing against Anderlecht at home on Saturday. As for Rafael Yedika, Club Brugge beat Anderlecht 3-1 yesterday. Really good performance from them, which means that they will play Royal Antwerp at home on Sunday. They need to win and hope that Gent can do them a favor by stopping Union Saint-Gilloise from winning, which would then allow them to win the title. However, Gent have lost their last 6 games, so it's very, very unlikely, but we've seen stranger things happen in football. As for Gent, Jordan Torunarigha did not play in these their batterings. He might be injured, but there's also rumors linking him to Marseille this summer, so let's see what happens. And it's also unlikely he'll play against Union Saint-Gilloise on Sunday. In Scotland, Cyriel Dessers and Leon Balogun played 90 minutes, and of course I mentioned that Dessers finished as the top goal scorer in the league after scoring a brace in Rangers 3-1 win over Dundee United on Wednesday. He then scored a goal again on Saturday as Rangers drew 2-2 against Hibernian, but Leon Balogun had come off injured after 10 minutes, so watch this space. In South Africa, Saino Abali was not in the squad for Chippa United in their 3-0 loss to Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday, and also their 1-1 draw against Maruma Gallants on Saturday, so it's likely that he is injured. Just to quickly round up the podcast with the Starboy of the week, we have to give our flowers to players that really shown their hands this season. The bronze medal for this week has to go to Moses Simon. You know, a goal and an assist on the final day of the season in League One on his 200th League One appearance is an amazing achievement. First Nigerian record to reach 10 assists in a league season in a top 5 league in Europe is no mean feat, and they also won the game 3-0. So exceptional performance, and shout out to you, Moses Simon. Also, silver medal goes to Cyriel Dessers this week. You know, 3 goals in 2 games as he finishes the top goal scorer in the Scottish League. 6 goals in 5 games to end the season is no mean feat, and we cannot laugh at that. So shout out to you, Cyriel Dessers, and we would like to see him called up for this Unity Cup because his form deserves it. Gold medal for the week is a bit of a recurring theme, but I mean, what else can we do? We have to give it to Victor Osimhen. He deserves his flowers always. 3 goals in 2 games, 2 trophies in a week, 36 goals for Galatasaray, 41 goals overall for club and country, and now the record holder for most goals scored by a foreigner in Galatasaray history in the season. 41 goals for this season. I mean, as Jay-Z said, what more can I say? What more can I do? You know, all those Premier League clubs being snobbish, I don't want to hear rubbish when he comes and doppies the Prem next season. So watch this space, and shout out to you, Victor Osimhen. You are the Starboy of the week. Once to watch for the week to round up the podcast. On Friday, we'll see Umar Sadiq's Valencia play against Real Betis. On Saturday, we'll see Christantus Uche's Getafe play against Celta Vigo. And then on Sunday, we've got a bunch of games for all our players. Lookman's Atalanta play Parma at 2 p.m. Fisal Dele-Bashiru may be making his last appearance for Lazio at home against Lecce. Taiwo Empoli will play Verona. Ola Aina's Nottingham Forest will play Chelsea. Very, very important game, as I already mentioned. Alex Iwobi and Calvin Bassey's Fulham host Man City at Craven Cottage with the chance to really spoil Man City's season. So let's see what happens there. Ndidi may be playing his last game for Leicester away against Bournemouth, so watch out for that. And Joe Aribo may be playing his last ever Premier League game because he has not really looked the level, to be honest, against my Arsenal at 4 p.m. And then finally, we'll see Anthony Dennis Gotsepe play against Victor Osimhen's Galatasaray. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Next week, we'll be doing a review for the season, and I want to also do a few things around touching on, players that have done the best. What does my Nigeria team of the season look like? Who's my player of the year? And those kind of information. And also, because it will be 2 days before the Unity Cup, we should have the list of the Super Eagles that will be playing this friendly game to touch on in the podcast and do a quick preview ahead of the game against Ghana. I'm looking forward to going to the game, quite excited to watch the Nigeria national team in England. I think it's the first time we've had the opportunity to watch Nigeria play in the UK since the 2018 run-up to the World Cup when Nigeria played against England in Wembley. And that was one of the proudest days of my life, just seeing how many Nigerian fans turned up for the Super Eagles, It was a really, really beautiful sight. And it shows you what could happen if we somehow make it to the World Cup in the summer in America. So take care. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Remember, we're Nigeria Football Weekly on all football channels, NFWPOD on Twitter. Until next time, take care and enjoy all the football. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigeriano de Eva Karila.